My name is John Mad Dog Hall, and this talk is on Project Caua. Okay, that's what the little tilde over the A means. And this is a project I started about 12 years ago, mostly down in Latin America, and I'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later. I'm the board chair of the Linux Professional Institute. We do certifications for open source professionals. We're a nonprofit based out of Toronto, Canada. I'm also the founder of Project Caua, and I'm the co-founder of a project in Brazil called Caninos Loucos, and that's crazy dogs, by the way. And the goal of that project is to create inexpensive single-board computers, but also to teach people how to design and manufacture and create supply chains of things for such computers. We'll see a little bit more about that later on. I'm also the executive director of Linux International. Now, who am I in general? I started programming in 1996. Back then, we didn't have computer science. We only had computer black magic. And my part of my degree was in data processing. I actually had a professor tell me I would never make my profession as a professional programmer. I'm still waiting to see if he was correct. I've worked in a wide variety of different systems, a lot of them closed source. I've worked for a lot of companies, small and large, nonprofit and profit-making. Some of them were supposed to be profit-making, but ended up being nonprofit. I had a wide variety of jobs, so from the last talk about changing jobs, I've had a lot of them. But most of all, I like to think of myself as being pragmatic. I believe in getting the job done, so I don't typically spit on somebody if they're using closed-source software. I just try and convince them why they're wrong. So there's a problem in Brazil and in Latin American countries. A lot of the federal and state universities there, and in Europe too for that matter, it seems like the United States is the only one that's behind, the tuition is free for qualified students. You get good grades in high school, you work hard in high school, you take the entrance exams, and you pass, and you can get a full scholarship tuition to a university, whether it be state or federal. However, everything else is not free. So if you live in a small town and you have to go to the city for the university, you have to get an apartment, and you have to have food, and you have to buy books and internet and computers and things like that, and all of this costs money. And a lot of times your family is so poor that they really can't afford that. Likewise, it's also equally possible that as the oldest child in the family, you've been working since the age of 15 to help to support your family. And so often it's not the oldest child who goes to university, but some of the younger siblings. In fact, I talked with one president of a university, and he said 40% of the qualified students could not take advantage of the free university because their families are too poor to do that. Some of them work part-time as waiters, waitresses, they night clerk at a hotel, stuff like that, but they typically don't make enough money to really get them through. And there's a lot of students that get within 2 or 3 courses of graduation and they give up. And besides, that's not what they're studying, right? They're not studying to learn how to flip hamburgers in a burger place. They want to learn computer science or computer engineering or information science. Pardon me. And so, like I said, oftentimes they give up. There's another problem. It's small business. In the United States, small business is between 1 to 50 people, medium is 50 to 500, and large is 500 above that. But in a lot of countries, small is between 1 and 30 people, medium is 30 to 300, and it's interesting that it's small business who it typically generates the greatest number of patents and new ideas. In the United States, about 90% of the patents are created by small to medium business. And larger companies like Apple and Google and stuff, sure, they develop a lot of new ideas and stuff like that, but they typically buy the patents and the ideas of other people, incorporating those people and those companies into their companies. So the small business is there, and they need computers, but some of them really don't want to know anything about computers. It's just a tool. It's not like us. We want to learn everything about computers, right? They don't want to know anything about computers. They just want to use the computers to do their job. But they can't afford to have a full-time systems administrator. And consequently, you go into a small business and there may be some computers in there that aren't working at all, or they're working very poorly, or they haven't had any patches installed in the system in months and years. And the person also has no advocate for them. A salesperson comes in and tries to sell them a new computer or a new piece of software, and they have no idea of how that thing works or why it should work or whether they need it. I walked into a restaurant one time. He had 3 computers sitting up on his counter. One was his point-of-sale system. Okay, I understood that. One of them, that he had a web page that they could put in orders for pizza, and it printed out on a piece of paper that order. And okay, I could somewhat understand that. But the third computer, he couldn't tell me what it was for. He didn't know what it was for. Somebody just come in and sold it to him. And it just sat there. We didn't know. We never did figure out what it did. One day we just turned it off and nothing happened. So this is a problem. They need an advocate for them. And particularly somebody that gets to know their business so they can advocate the proper software for them to help them do their job. And then again, homeowners, for the most part, they're clueless, okay? So I was at a small event down in Brazil one time around 2015, and I had this person come up to me and say, "Maddog, how can I make money with free software?" Well, there's many answers to that. There's many business plans and things. But as I sat there, I realized this person was not asking me how they particularly could make money with free software, but it was how they could make money with free software. And I started thinking about that. I said, well, you're smart, you know technology and stuff, but you really don't know how to create a business. You don't know how to, what business to make and how to start selling it and stuff like that. And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a project called Project Caua. And as part of that project, I really have no goal of having one big overall project that has several million people in it. Don't care. What I want to have is 1 million small companies start up that each have 1 or 2 people to do it. So they become their own boss, and the profits that they make go directly into their pocket. But what I want to also do is make it as easy as possible for them to start up that small business and to have a product they can sell or services they could sell to the small business people. Now I'm going to say something that will probably be interesting to some of you or amazing to others. People don't buy hardware or software. I mean, they used to. In 1969, when I started programming, you go up by IBM mainframe, $2 million, right? And then you wrote whatever you needed. But today, you don't really do that. You buy a solution to a problem. That's what you're buying. You buy a home security system. You buy a home control system. You buy a point of sale and ERP system. That's what you're buying. And you really don't care whether it's running on a laptop or a server or an ARM processor or an Intel processor, whether it's running Linux or Windows, or you just don't care normally. You just want the solution. So I started thinking about solutions that these students could sell. Now, some of these students have been using computers since the age of 8. My husband is now, I have to be careful, 30 years old. And I know that's amazing. And he's been using the computers since the age of 8. He's been helping his family take care of the computers since the age of 8. And everybody in his family, his extended family, would come to him and, please help me install this new app on my Android phone. Please, my disk drive is full, or my disk drive failed, and, could you help me? And sure, he knows how to do all that stuff. But the problem is, he can't charge his mother for doing that. You can't charge your mother, the mother who fed you, the mother who changed your diaper, the mother who took care of you, who wiped your nose. You can't do that. But you could charge Timmy's mother, right? And Timmy, because you're busy helping Timmy's mother, Timmy could help your mother, and your mother could pay Timmy, okay? So teaching them how to do business and things like that is what you can do. And this is not just your family, this is everybody in the neighborhood. I mean, once they found out that Hugo could do this stuff, people came from miles around to have him help them. But what these students don't know how to do is they don't know how to set up a business. They don't know how to make a contract, especially a contract that's legal in their country. They don't know how to go out and find customers. How do you approach a customer? How do you sell yourself to that customer? How do you figure out the things that you can do to sell to that customer? They don't know that. How do you advertise to that customer? Now, back in the day, if you wanted a product, you wanted to advertise something, you had to hire an advertising agency. And in order to do that, you had to have money, and you had a contract with the advertising agency. And then you had to have a lawyer to make the contract and all this stuff. And it was very expensive. But today, you have social media. You don't need to do as much advertising and have as much money. You can do a lot of social media to get the word out about your services and your products. How do you subcontract? Now, you've got a contract, and in the contract it says what you're going to do for your customer. And now your customer comes to you and says, thank you for all the things you're doing for me, but I really need to have you do this. You say, well, I don't know how to do that. It's not in the contract. You're going to have to pay me extra money, and then I'm going to go out and find somebody that can do that for you, and I will pay them to do that. That's subcontract. And so you teach them how to subcontract and how to make products. And I don't know if you've been following this, but over the years, it's been more and more and more projects that show up in, on the web, SourceForge and GitHub and all these others. If you take a real hard look, there's about 400,000 different projects out there that you could take some portion of them and turn them into a product. So what Project Caua did was take the geeky penguin with the tape on the glasses and meld that together with the penguin with the tie, the business penguin, to create a project that people could have. So how does Project Caua really work? We have Project Caua professionals, the students or whatever, and we can start back in high school with this, to start training the high school students how to do this. And what they're doing, what the first goal of Project Caua was to create services, go in and repair people's existing computers. And we don't really care whether these computers are Linux or free software or Windows or Apple. Doesn't care the project, we don't care for Project Caua. It's up to the student and what the student knows. We prefer to do open source because we think you can do a better job in fixing that and keeping it alive. Now, a lot of students would go in and do what we call break and fix. When your computer breaks, you take it to the student, and the student fixes it and charges you a certain amount of money for their time and the equipment and everything. But the problem with that type of model is the fact that, you can't control it. Maybe you don't have any break and fix traffic for a long time, but that doesn't mean that your rent stops. Doesn't mean that your electricity is not going to keep going. You've got ongoing bills, so you really need to have a contract with these people to say, I'm going to get paid so much each month, and each month I'm going to visit you for so many hours a week, and I'm going to look your system over. I'm going to see what's happening in your error logs. I'm going to look for beginnings of failures of memory, failures of disks. I'm going to see if your disk is filling up. I'm going to see all this stuff. I'm going to see if you have to apply some patches to your system. I'm going to make sure your Wi-Fi is secure. I'm going to untangle that mess of cables and wires that you have going throughout your building and make it so you know that everything is labeled and where it's going. And I'm going to spend 4 hours every week with you as a customer doing this. I'll answer your questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'll go back and look it up on the web and translate it for you and do this. And so if you get 6 customers that you're spending 4 hours a week, that's 24 hours a week. It's a part-time job, better than flipping burgers, better than the night a hotel clerk. And you're doing it as something that you're trying to learn. Okay, it's giving you experience in systems administration. And this should generate enough living money so you can live, you can pay these incidental expenses that you have in your tuition-free university. So we have a website that we are developing, and the website is made up of different levels. The first level describes, is written in every language. We have it right now in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. It describes what the project is, how it works, why people should be doing it. And that's the same universally around the world. The second level of the website is country by country, about 180 different countries, that have a contract, a skeleton contract, which is legal in that country. Maybe it's written in the language of that country, it's been checked and vetted by a lawyer, and they say, yes, this is a legal contract in this country. It also has advertising materials for that country. I can't tell you the number of times I've gone into a country where the native population has a skin color much darker than mine, and yet you're coming out from the airport and there's a bulletin board with a purely white, British person or something, telling them why they should be buying their product. It's ridiculous. So you have advertising that fits the market. Rule of thumb, never, ever have advertising in Japan that shows chimpanzees dressed up in suits. For some reason, that just infuriates the Japanese. You're not going to go anyplace. So advertising that fits that, taxes that fit the country, and so forth. And you put all of that at the country level, the country modules. You have 180 different modules at the second level. Now, underneath of that, for each country, you have people who start up a local Project Caua site. And maybe that's associated with the university, maybe it's associated with a business group like the Kiwanis Club, or one of those Lions Club or Rotary Club, and you get a volunteer from them. Now this volunteer doesn't know anything about technology. Doesn't know anything about technology. That's the student's job. But what they do know is how to approach their businesses, how to approach their customers. And they coach and encourage the students to go out there and do that. Because remember, when you were 17 or 18 years old, and you had to go out and knock at the door of a business person, your knees were shaking and stuff like that, you were sure this person was going to just chop off your head. They need to have encouragement. But once they've done that once or twice, once they've been successful at doing that, they don't need to have as much encouragement. They know what they're doing. Now, this is a trick to this, I must admit, because that mentor, that person who's volunteering to do that, that mentor goes to the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, and talks to the business people in that organization. Maybe it's a small hotel association or a restaurant association in that city. They go there, they describe the whole program, and they say to these people, how many of you would like to have one of these students working with you to help you keep your computers alive? And when the people raise their hands, the mentor goes around and takes their telephone numbers and addresses and stuff like that, takes it back to the group of students whose knees are shaking and say, hi, why don't you go see this person? So now you have the customer who's been prompted. This is a magician's trick. The customer's been prompted. It's a force. You're forcing the student upon this customer, but the customer's expecting it to happen. And they say, okay, we'll try you out. And once you're the student, you've made a couple of successful sales, then you can be the mentor to the next student coming along. So that's how the program works. And what the students said to me, we piloted this several times, and we learned each time through the pilot some things. One of the things that we learned was the students said, hey, we wanted to not just do services, we want to do products. And that would cause me a little bit of problem because I was still in the process of trying to figure out what type of products people could have. And we came up with basically 4 products to start off with. And I'll go over some of them. This is just a list of them right here. Odoo, which is a point of sale and ERP system called Enterprise Resource Planning. Most companies have this. It's an inventory control system. It's a customer relationship management system. It's maybe a web page, but it's all built out of this system that allows you to integrate all of these things. And Odoo has been around for a long time. It was called Tiny ERP at one time, and they rechanged it to Odoo. There is a commercial side of it, but there's also a community side, which is completely open source and completely free. And there's enough stuff on the free side to be able to set up an entire point of sale and ERP system that you don't pay anything for the software. And so that's one thing. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later. Another one is the FreedomBox Personal and Community Server. Now, a friend of mine named Eben Moglin, who is a law professor in New York City, who wrote GPL version 3, he had this kind of a thing one time. And the thing was that he was a little nervous about people putting their most private of stuff up onto Google and Amazon and stuff like that. I mean, he didn't care about the cat pictures. You can put as many cat pictures as you want up there, but he did care about people putting their social security numbers and stuff like that. So he decided to create this project called FreedomBox to be a secure personal server that would run on a little single board computer and that you could plug into the wall and store your most private of things there. And after a number of years of people helping him do this, they created version 1.0, and it has now been integrated into Debian 11 and 12, so the software is actually there. And that became another product. We'll talk a little bit more about that later also. There's also Kodi, which is a multimedia home system to allow you to store your music and your videos and things like that. You can set up a really nice home entertainment system out of Kodi and a little single board computer and some speakers. And also an Internet of Things integration that you could do with HomeAssistant.io. And then there's a couple more things that are coming down the pipe, but all these can tend to run on Debian on these little single board computers. We'll see more about them later. So the Project Caua professionals said, yeah, we want to have products as well as a service offering. So we tried to create the lowest cost possible product for them that they could then extend, because it's free software, and make money in the setup and maintenance and everything like that. So let's go into them in a little bit greater depth. Here's Odoo. There's the URL to the Odoo community site where you can learn more about it. And it's been compared favorably to SAP and Oracle ERP POS systems. Now, for those of you who have ever dealt with those, you find out that they're very sophisticated and very expensive. And not only that, but they're very closed, okay? So I had a friend who had a restaurant. He had an Oracle ERP system, and one day I found that he was really exhausted. And I said, why are you exhausted? It's because he spent the whole weekend typing in his receipts that he had gotten from his vendors into the system so the system knew what he had. And I said, well, can't you get those things electronic? Oh, I do. They email me those receipts. Well, why can't you just feed them into the system? I have to pay Oracle $30,000 for the module that allows me to do that. I said, that's a sed and awk script. No, I don't know how the database is set up, so I can't do that. So I have to spend a day every month typing these things in. And this is the type of thing that, even if you got the main system for free, having to do that work because it's not open is a problem. Now, Odoo works in a wide variety of systems. It works on Windows, it works on Linux, it works on BSD. You're not limited to what it is. But there's hundreds of companies out there who offer second and third level support. So if you need to have a new module written, you can go to those companies and subcontract to them to get that module written. If there's something that the student can't solve, they can call in those companies. Now, I've been to those companies. People told me, hey, these companies are going to hate this because it's taking away business from them. No, they don't. They love this because this eliminates those crappy questions they always get. My mouse, I move it right and the little thing on the screen goes to the left. No, you're holding the mouse wrong, okay? This eliminates that type of problem, or the printer that's unplugged, or whatever. And now, when somebody calls them up, it's the student who calls them up and talks to them on a level, and they can talk to them at a different level. So it shortens the amount of time. They can concentrate on second and third level problems because of the students. So they love this idea, and they're some of the people that we're going to get to be mentors. That includes this person right here. Now, on the left-hand side, you see a typical point-of-sale ERP system. You see it at McDonald's. That's what it is, okay? It typically is a screen, LCD screen, a scanner, a printer, a cash drawer, and then maybe something to take credit cards. All of that stuff is supported with Odoo. And this guy right here works for a company called Kmee, K-M-E-E. He's one of the providers of Odoo in Brazil. And he came to a show to show off this type of stuff. Now, you take the Odoo software, you have your little single board computer, maybe it's a Raspberry Pi, maybe it's a Kinesis Lucas system, and you order a bunch of stuff over the internet. You order a printer, you order a scanner, you order a scale, and it's all listed as the ones that are supported. Most of those are USB devices, they just plug right in. And then you create the system.
Hello, my name is John Maddog Hall. I am the board chairman of the Linux Professional Institute and the president of Linux International. I am here today with the people from the Caua project to show you a technology demonstration of one of the potential products that could be built with free and open source software, a Labrador, and stock components that you can order off the internet. Stock components such as a printer, a scanner, a cash drawer, and an LCD screen. This is free software from the Odoo Association, and we put together this little technology demonstration to show you what we've got working at this point with more things coming in the future. This is the Kinesis Lucas Labrador computer. It is a 32-bit computer. This particular one we're using to drive the point-of-sale terminal of Odoo. So the point-of-sale terminal is the interface that interacts with the human being, with the clerk, with the customer, things like that. There's another part of this system, which is a ERP system that would handle things like inventory, or customer relationship management software, or a lot of e-commerce, a lot of other things that a company or store would like to do, but they don't need a big computer to do it. They could do that with the Labrador. So we have this set up to take a standard bottle of hand gel, use a standard scanner, which you can buy off the internet, scan in the barcode from the product, and then you can see that it gets put onto the customer list of things that the customer has purchased. If that's the only thing that the customer wants at this time, you can then come and say, okay, proceed with what the customer is going to do. You can say, oh, you want to pay for it with cash, and click on that. You can then say, that's the last thing that the customer wants to buy, and so you validate that. And then it says, how do you want the receipt? And in this case, we're having the receipt sent out to the printer, and then we would go and print the receipt. And the receipt comes out on the printer, and the cash drawer opens up for you to accept the cash from the customer and give them their change. And then you can say, okay, we're going to have a new order, and start the whole process over again. We will be adding additional components to this, a scale to be able to weigh produce, and other things that people would want to have in a point of sale system. These basic components, including the Labrador, could also be put into a customer kiosk or other types of self-service types of things. This is a very powerful but yet very inexpensive system where the money that you're making can go into your pocket instead of sending it to a large corporation that is going to simply give it to their stockholders. So thank you very much for watching this. Keep in touch, keep watching, because we're going to be doing more things over time. And this will be ready very, very soon for people to be able to use this to make business and make money. Thank you very much. My name is John Mad Dog Hall, and this is Caninos Lucas.
Now, over time, what we're going to be doing is replacing the regular LCD screen with a touch panel, and so you're not going to need to have the mouse and the keyboard. It'll be less clunky. But this was just a technology demonstration to give you an idea about what Udo can do with a little single-board computer like a Raspberry Pi or the Caninos Lucas. So the next thing we want to talk about is the personal server. And this is done with FreedomBox software, freedombox.org, which we talked about before. And what they wanted was a blobless solution. So everything was in source code. And the hardware had no binary blobs in it, so you could see everything that was going on. Because if you want security, you have to be able to look at it, okay? And they created a panel to allow people to more easily set up the Wi-Fi, Tor server, VPN and things like that you would want to have in a secure setting. Now, is this mom and pop easy? Probably not, but it certainly means you don't have to have a PhD in computer science to set this up, just a general knowledge of things that a student might have as they went through high school and university. You can also add Nextcloud software on there to have a community server, not just a personal server, but more of a community server where people can log in over the internet and be able to store their data and documents and collaborate with each other using collaboration software that Nextcloud supports. And finally, you can add on top of that the Fediverse type of software like Diaspora and GNU Social that allows you to create Facebook and other types of social media that is under the control of you instead of under the control of some corporation. Now, I admit that I come from a rather strange country called the United States. And we have this wonderful piece of law called the Constitution. And the Constitution protects our privacy, unless you have part of the Patriot Act. We'll ignore that for a little bit. But for the most part, we're supposed to have our privacy protected by the Constitution. However, if you come from outside the United States, you're not protected. Nothing. Zero. And if I, as a U.S. citizen, talk to somebody outside of the United States, then our conversation is not protected either. And so if you're outside of the United States, you may have some issues about having things located inside the United States. And this is why a lot of the social media companies have servers that are outside of the United States. But that still doesn't protect them because the headquarters are still inside of the United States. That's a problem for a lot of people in different countries. I won't say whether that's good or bad. I'll just say it's a problem. So besides all this software that you have, you can, the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil is a certificate authentication mechanism. So they can authenticate the certificates that you have on a website. When you say HTTPS, that S is a certified website. It becomes, because it's a certificate and there's a handshaking thing that goes on that guarantees that the website you think you're going to is actually the website that you are going to. The university is able to set that up also. In addition to that, there's things like multi-factor authentication. So one set of authentication is your username and your password. Another type of authentication might be your fingerprint. Another type of authentication might be your eye scan. Another type of authentication might be, what day of the week is it? And is it from 9 to 5? And if you're trying to access the site outside of those times, you shouldn't be able to do it. All these are authentication ways. Well, there's a key called, made by a company called Solo Key. There's other ones too. And you have to stick this key into your laptop in order to be able to log in. You can know your login name and your password till the cows come home, but unless you have that key stuck into your laptop, you're not going to be able to access it. And then you can pass that through using a technology called FIDO2 to give greater authentication to logging into your websites and stuff like that. And Solo Key is a company that makes these. All of the software for Solo Key that implements the FIDO2 technology is open source. So you can see exactly what it does. You can actually compile it and install it yourself. The hardware for the key is open source. They supply all the circuit diagrams so you can check it to make sure everything's going on. And if you want to, you could actually manufacture it in your own country on your own manufacturing lines. That's open source. The last one I want to talk about is the home entertainment system. This is Kodi Multimedia. It actually has had several renditions over the years, but it allows you to store all your photos and music and videos on inexpensive hardware. Not only set up a stereo system, which is basically 2-channel, but stereo with a subwoofer 2.1, or 5.1 or 7.1 comes out of that. And you can handle all of those different types of systems. 4K or 8K TV sets, you can do that too. And you can even handle over-the-air transmission. If you're in the city, there's a lot of over-the-air free TV that's generated. You can get a little USB prong that fits into your system, and you can capture over-the-air TV for people who don't want to pay for cable TV shows. Of course, you can browse the internet on it. This is your first connection to the internet for a lot of people. And you don't have, you can use the same system that's your multimedia system to browse the internet and see the connections. So you can add to that Home Assistant I/O. This is the second largest platform or project on the internet, Linux being the only larger one. There's 80,000 people who contribute to this. Not everybody contributes a lot, but 80,000 different people. So there's a lot of interest in this. They can control all the lights that Google Home and Alexa control, and so you can go through. But when you talk to Home Assistant, it doesn't go all the way back to Google. It doesn't go all the way back to Apple, okay? It stays inside of your home in most cases. And that's important. It's also important when the internet goes down and all of a sudden you can't turn your lights on. The internet is fine inside of your house, but there's nothing going to the outside. And this is a big problem in Africa recently because some of the cables going to Africa were cut over the last couple days, and their internet is spotty, to be the least. You can also set up a security webcam looking at your front door. Maybe you have a small apartment and the front door is the only way that people are going to get in. So you set up the webcam and you say, hey, if anything moves, send me a picture. Let me know. Because maybe it's just a cat jumping up on the door, but maybe it's somebody else who's coming into the system, and I want to know so I can call the police and let them know. It's relatively easy to set this up. For a simple, stereo system, you just plug in some powered speakers into your little USB, and you have all this capability. And I had a friend of mine who set this system up and tailored it. He had a projection system, LCD projector. He has a nice amplification system. And people would come over to his house. He'd say, you want to see some of the videos I took on my phone? I say, yeah, that'd be nice. He picks up his phone. He doesn't have to transfer the videos off his phone to any place else. He just connected to his phone and played it right out of his phone over the amplification system. And the people would sit there and look at this and say, where can I buy this? He says, well, it's not really a product. It's just a project I've been working. No, you don't understand. Where can I buy it, and how much does it cost? So there's a lot of demand for this. And you may not be selling this to somebody who has a base salary or something, but there's a lot of people who have big, expensive home entertainment systems that would pay a lot of money to have this type of integration. And so there's 400,000 projects out there of different types that the students could look at, learn, and then sell support for this to the various customers that they have. And what does all of Project Caua cost to the students? How much are the students going to have to pay to become a Project Caua professional? What's the cost to the students? And the answer is nothing. Never. In fact, you don't even have to become a Project Caua professional in order to have access to all the information about how to do this, all the build stuff, all the things that tell you about the hardware and what you have to do to put together. All of that is going to be available to everyone who wants it. You don't even have to log into the system. However, if you want to ask a question of somebody, then we're going to make you have a login account. And when you get that login account, you're going to have to agree to a code of conduct. No calling people names. No telling them they're an idiot. Treat them like another human being. That's all you have to do. And then you can ask questions, and maybe people will help you, because that's what we're all about. But what if I want to be a Project Caua professional? Don't I have to pay for that to be able to use the Project Caua logo, to be able to have on my business card Project Caua professional? Still don't have to pay. It's still free. But here you have to agree to a professional code of conduct which says how you treat your customer. That you agree to go to your customer every week for 4 hours. You don't just leave them by. You treat them as a professional. And you can become a Project Caua professional and use the trademark information. Now, what optional things could you get when you get to that level? Well, maybe you want discounted vouchers to the Linux Professional Institute so you can get certifications, because that will help you attract customers. And, that's something you can get. Why can you get that when you get to that level? Because you've agreed to the professional code of conduct. Now you've got your certification. What else does that do for you? When you go to an insurance company to get professional insurance in your country, they'll sell it to you at a discount. Why? Because they know you're trained. And you're less likely to get into trouble where your customer is going to sue you for the damages you've done to their system. You're less likely to have those damages. And you could also get discounts on books and training and other things because you're a Project Caua professional. But it still has not cost you any money. So we're going to build this community of Project Caua professionals. Independent business people, each one owning their own business. And we're going to connect them with 5 to 6 businesses apiece, all local to where they are. We're going to start them off in high school, so by the time they go to university, they already know how to do it. They take their customers that they've had in high school, which is local to where they live, and they give them to the next Project Caua, potential Project Caua professional. They then go to university. They say, oh, I need to get 5 or 6 more customers that are local to where I live at the university. But maybe there's a senior who's already leaving, who already has those customers, or maybe they're working on their senior projects and they don't have the time to do this, so the freshman coming in takes over from the senior that's leaving. And so the customer gets the continuity of support they need. So all the revenues, other than their expenses that they have, goes right into their pocket, other than taxes, of course. Everybody has to pay taxes. And they're expected, as part of this community, to help the other Project Caua professionals. And they can do that because they're not competing with them. Each one is 5 or 6 customers within their scope of where they live. We have a community of mentors. Like I said, they don't have to be technical. They're mostly business people. How do you do a business? And they help the students help themselves to do this. They meet with the PCPs once a month, like a Boy Scout meeting or Girl Scout meeting or whatever. And universities can use Project Caua as a separate type of internship program for the students who need to earn money to go to university. So Mad Dog, this is wonderful. When is this going to happen? Well, as I said, we've had several different projects, several different pilots, particularly in Brazil. We have a pilot going on in Argentina, a pilot going on in Uruguay and Paraguay. And we've learned a lot from these projects and pilots. So today, you can start looking at the Udo software. You can start looking at the Freedom Box software. You can start to see what these, Cody, what can these things do? Imagine in your mind what you can do with it. And then on June the 24th, we will hopefully have the website done. So you can go to the website and start looking at it and start planning on it and stuff. And actually start doing this yourself. You don't have to wait for us. And then we're going to have the full launch on July. Showed them the business plan. I showed them how it's going to work. And after 2 days, they came back to me, and their faces were really white. And they said, "This scales really well." I said, "Yes, it does." And I want this to be worldwide. I want places all over the world to be able to do Project Caua. And to have not the richest people going to university, but the best. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. We need to have the microphones so people can hear your questions on the recording. And I'm going to start shutting this down because I want to go hear Bill's talk as the final keynote.
Any questions?
Where's the website for this?
I purposely have not shown that because it's not ready yet. So it will be Project Caua, just the same way as it's spelled, .org when it's ready. And it'll be ready during the soft launch, which will be June the 24th. But in the meantime, you can start looking at the software for Udo, which is there, and Cody, which is there, and Freedom Box, which is there, and start to think about it.
Any other questions?
So why is it taking so long to do the website? Because it's one thing to do it in English, it's another thing to get all the translations done, Spanish, Portuguese. It's another thing to get the contracts written and vetted by lawyers, and then to get those translated and vetted into different countries. So we have to have all that done before we can put the website up and let people start going after it.
You mentioned pilots in several countries. Is anything going on the African continent?
Not currently with Project Caua, no, but we have contacts in places like Ghana and Kenya. I'm leveraging off of the Linux Professional Institute. I'm the board chair of the Linux Professional Institute, and while LPI is not doing this specifically, they are helping with this. And they see a movement that if people become involved with Project Caua, that this will generate requirements for certifications and things like that. So the people that we have inside of LPI would be very interested in being Project Caua mentors.
Okay. I'm curious because I do have some contacts in Africa. How do I get in touch with you? What's the best way to sort of start that conversation with you?
Well, maddog at lpi.org works very well.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
The other thing I'm going to do, this has been recorded, it's going to go up on the Scale website, and when the website becomes available, I will ask them to update the listing for this to include projectcaua.org so that when people see the talk, they'll be able to see the URL for the website. But it would just be frustrating for people right now to try and go to the website and not have it ready. So. Anything else? Okay, Bill Treswick, over in the other building. He's giving a keynote. I've known Bill for 40 years. Really funny guy, really nice guy. Go see it. It's worth it. Thank you.